Culture, and welcome you all to the Creel of the Cailleach workshop. I thought I'm going to start off with a bit of context to who the Cailleach is, or Cailleach, her legends, how she's perceived within Gaelic culture and poetry and song. And then down to like how people within Gaelic culture sort of work with her as on a spiritual basis, and how we can ourselves work with them. Yes. So first of all, I want to go into sort of the root word of the word Cailleach in Gaelic. So it is said to be meaning hooded one, but then also later on in Gaelic culture it's to referring to someone who's a nun, like Cailleach, which is the black Cailleach, referring to the shroud of a nun. We have other things that are referred to within Gaelic culture with her name as well. One is, which we'll then known of, is Cailleach for an owl. You have and the proper word, like if you're going to say as the Cailleach, it's a Cailleach, which is the, otherwise it's a Cailleach. Or Cailleach is plural. So like I'm going to discuss about Lala Cailleach, it means the day of the old women's, like old women, which I'll go into that later on, and how that connects to the Cailleach being more than just this one unifying being as she's seen known today. So one thing about the Cailleach in Gaelic culture is there's so many meanings to the actual word Cailleach is referred to in many sorts of ways. In the more earlier medieval period is towards a nun or someone who is knowledgeable, and it still is to this day. So within Gaelic culture, the oldest woman in your village, that is seen as the wise woman, or just as had life experience, someone that you go for advice within your community, they are called the Cailleach. I believe there's a documentary online where they are interviewing this, it's called the Cailleach, and it's interviewing this woman that lives in the Highlands, and she's the eldest in her village. She's nearly like sort of 100. I don't think she's alive now, but yeah, the reason why that documentary is called the Cailleach is because her community refer her as that, because her wisdom. She's a herbalist. She lives a very simple life. People go to her for advice and such, and she's a really old woman. Then the next one is referred to in legends as someone who is like an ancestress of a place or land. So it could be like very similar to how the church grim is, like the first one buried in a graveyard, whereas this is like the first woman or Bada versus man that lived in the area. And stories like how the Glens was made, and who was who cultivated the land before them. So she's seen as an ancestress as well. So that's how you have like regional stories all dotted around parts of Ireland and the Highlands of Scotland. And then you see some very older tales where she is referred to sort of a creator goddess, and that's more and also like a spirit that is sort of connected with the weather, particularly the harsh, raw sides of weather. So yes, and so the older form really is, you know, the person who has created the hills. One renown is like she's supposed to have created Ben Nevis, you know, and there's a lot of stories, and also Loch Lomond. Oh no, sorry, Loch Ness. Sorry. So there's other stories like where, you know, which is quite popular, and it seems to be kind of repetitive within the region, and so seems to relate to different each other, is that the idea that these mountains are created, the mountain and hills of Scotland are created because she's a big giant. She's one of the Fian race. I mean, you know, the hero of the Fenian myths. And she is said to be like the great grandmother of the you know, Fian MacCool, one of the legendary warriors of the Fenian myths. And it's said that she is giantess. She walks from the Highlands, and she collects stones to build her house or to rebuild her house in Ben Nevis. And the story goes that these other mountains, and you see it like Bin na Cailleach or Ben na Cailleach, mounting or hill of the Cailleach. You'll have Cailleach na Cailleach, stone of the Cailleach. And these are related because it's in many legends is that she walks the landscape, and she's in her creel, her basket, she has stones in which she's going to rebuild or build a house. And sometimes she trips, or sometimes they fall out of her creel, and as the bundle falls, that's how is one of the hills or the mountains are created of Scotland. Not all, of course, but there's several with dotted around the Highlands and the islands, the Hebrides, where hills are named after the Cailleach. Like you said, being na Cailleach or Cailleach na Cailleach, you know, stone of the Cailleach. And then you have other legends where lochs are made, like created by the Cailleach. One being famous of Ben Nevis and of Loch Ness. And the story goes that there was a maiden, there was a sacred well, and there was a maiden called Ness or Nessech. And she was instructed by the Cailleach to always cap the well at night and uncap it in the morning as the sun rose or set. And one night, Nessa was distracted by a strapping young man, and got talking down in the village and, you know, the glen. And she realizes that the sun's about to set, so she rushes on to go cap the well, the sacred well, but she's too late. The sun has already set, and so the whole well overflows and floods the whole glen, including drowned in poor Nessa or Nessa. And that's how Loch Ness became the name Ness, Loch Ness, Loch Nessa. And there's several stories about this, about very similar themes, about, you know, capping a well, and this instruction to cap it, you know, before sunset and uncap it before sunrise, like that it may bubble over and flow. You know, we see tales very similar to that in, you know, Ireland, where, you know, the Boyd River, it has very similar take, you know, Boyda, one of the river goddesses, you know, that's how the River Boyd is created, is Boyda is supposed to cap the well, and she doesn't, and it overflows and boils and bubbles and, you know, becomes a river. So, and then there's other things, phenomena. So again, connected with weather, you know, she is connected around, like associated this time of year. So after the time of Samhain, you know, summer's end, or All Hallows or Halloween, or when you want to refer it to, you know, after this time, it's said that she sort of reigns, and you see her as a connection with winter time here then, and it probably connects to an older truth that, you know, winter darkness is the primal void, and which wisdom is brought onto us. You know, with the old Celtic year, it was said that, you know, the new year starts, and the day starts when the night falls, as the day, like, you know, hits after 12 o'clock, is a new day. So again, it goes with the seasons as well. So and then we see the legends of this new and old phase of where, you know, the period of Samhain was sort of a new year, you know, of legends, her being transformed from, you know, as the year goes on, she gets older and older. And as Samhain approaches, and it's her reign, she drinks from a fountain of youth on the Western Isles, on the Tír na Tunach, yeah, Tír na Newid, sorry. And she drinks of the fountain, she becomes youthful again. And then we see this in connection as well, like of St. Bridget in being the same being as the Cailleach, because, you know, some legends, it'll just youthful as she drinks. And then some refer to the Cailleach is St. Bridget, and then when she drinks the well water, she is transformed into her normal self. We'll hear of other legends, which is quite popular amongst today, and that is thankful to a legend from the Wonder Tales. Sorry, let me see, the Wonder Story. Oh, excuse me, I am titles and names. So the Wonder Tales from Scottish Myths and Legends, by what's his, one sec, sorry about that, that's a bit of a dilemma. Right, I can't remember his name, but by Macpherson. So it's from the Wonder Tales by Macpherson, and he is responsible for what we know of the legends of the Cailleach today. You know, that sort of mythology where, you know, the dark and light side of the year is like a kind of battle, and we see that in themes within classical mythology. You know, with Persephone and Hades, and, you know, and being trapped half time of the year and half not. So he's been responsible sort of getting all the sort of legends of the Cailleach and sort of weaving them into, that's it, Douglas Mackenzie, yeah, sorry. Thank you very much, Casey. So yeah, Douglas Scott Mackenzie, he's responsible of sort of weaving and sort of bringing all together the mythology and the folk tales of the Cailleach, and putting it into one kind of legend. But then also him being inspired by classical mythology like Persephone and Hades, you know, is portraying, then turns, you know, St. Bridget is the reason why, you know, there is winter, because she is trapped, she's kept captive by the Cailleach in Ben Nevis, and other themes such as like very inspired by Brothers Grimm, like Rapunzel, you know, being trapped in a mountain and then is saved by Angus MacOrc. And you see their themes from there, like, and other sort of themes as well from the Grimm fairy tales. So his account is the only one that sort of is documented in that specific mythology of her. However, there is, like I said, the legends within that whole story have truth. You know, the fact that she has like you know, 8 other sisters that are connected with storms. I believe around this time of year, from March to April, it's known as Cailleach, or Cailleach, and Cailleach, sorry. And they're known as the stormy times, the stormy weathers. So certainly she is connected with like that, you know, known as having, you know, several sisters to help her do her job, to bring in frost, to give in blight, you know, cold winds and weather and rain. And I think that's an important part of nature, to be fair. You know, without the frost and the rain and the cold, you know, our nature, our natural environment cannot exist because it needs that hibernation period. But yes, so going back to Douglas Mackenzie, he's very much like, you know, like a Macpherson, with regards to like, you know, Macpherson, like, and his Ossian stories and sort of exaggerating them. So he's taken his own take and sort of tailoring all these legends that are, some are quite regional, like specifically regional and unique to certain areas, because these stories are, you know, like I said, the Cailleach is connected to the Scottish landscape. So the reason why some of these stories are regional is because they're connected to certain lochs, certain stones, stone circles, caves, phenomena in water. Like one of the legends is that she, the way she brings on frost and snow is that she goes to this natural whirlpool that's in the river, just off the Isle of Skye, between the Isle of Skye and Harris, I think. Don't remember on that, but one of the Hebrides Islands, there's a natural whirlpool in the sea, and that is called Cailleach, which means the boiling cauldron. But it's also known as like the Cailleach's washing machine, because one of the legends says that as winter approaches, as Samhain, she takes off her plaid that is dirty and, you know, ragged from the year of working and, you know, creating mountains and lochs, and she washes it in the Cailleach, and as she dries it out, puts it out to dry upon, you know, the tallest trees in Scotland on the mountains, the lint that falls from the plaid, you know, the shroud, creates the snow and the frost. So that's one of the legends that is referred to her in that. So we see that there's a massive theme with her being of part goddess. You know, perhaps there's speculating that she was maybe a kind of earth goddess, or certainly an ancestral goddess. I like to see an ancestress, like when you see in you know, Irish myths or Irish mythology, ancient Irish mythology, you know, the Tuatha De Danann, you know, and Danu is seen as like a sort of, she doesn't have a prominent role, and actually she's rarely mentioned within the Irish, the ancient Irish myths. But you know, Tuatha De Danann, it just means the people of Danu. So it's like Danu, she is referred to and renowned as a sort of ancestress, someone who is the first woman of the race of the Gaels, or the Gaeltach areas, Gaelic speaking areas, Gaelic community, and also the creator, like, of the landscape itself. You know, the first woman that hoed the land, the first one that built that mountain, the first person who leaked the well to make this loch of fresh water and springs. And also, you know, there's definitely loads of like sort of well, not sort of holy wells, because holy wells are sort of adopted through Catholicism, But certainly springs and rivers are named after her, which I'll go on. The main river that flows near the Taina Bodach or Taina Cailleach, which I'll talk about in a minute, is Avon na Cailleach, which means the river of the old woman. And yes, and right by there, the valley, you have one of Britain's oldest shrines, and that is known as Taina Bodach or Taina Cailleach, which means the house of the old man, Bodach, or the house of the old woman, Cailleach, Cailleach, yeah. And like I said, Cailleach is plural, so it means women. Cailleach, woman. And this is one of Britain's oldest shrines. So you'll see it's just off the highlands of Perthshire. There's a stone shielding, which kind of resembles like a sort of summer shielding, like for farmers where they go off to cattle, cattle rearing and stuff. And there's two big stones. One's called Cailleach, the old woman. The other one's called Bodach, the old man, and the Nian, the daughters. And every Beltane, the stones are brought out and displayed. And then on every Samhain, they are put back in the shielding and bricked up. And this is a tradition that has been passed on through, I believe, the farmer to this day, who owns that land. It's been going on for centuries. There was one legend, like there's one story where an archaeologist took one of the stones to carbon date it, and she had nothing but bad luck and some freaky goings on in her house, and so scared out of her wits, and she was a skeptic as well. She actually returned the stone back that night, which anyone who's ever been there, it's quite a trek off the main road. You have to go through several valleys, over streams and crossing lochs, and so yeah, and they're massive stones. So that would have been some doing. So yes, there must have been something that really went on that frightened her taking the stones home to carbon date them. But I believe her research showed that they are dated anywhere between, which is quite broad, between like sort of like 2,000, 3,000 years old, maybe older. She couldn't, like I said, she didn't have much time to carbon date them and to do her research. But yes, and you also see off the Isle of Juta, there is stones as well that are known as the Cailleach and the Bodach. And so a lot of people, as well as like St. Bridget or St. Bridget, is connected with the Cailleach. We see like a lot of themes where stones, like two stones that are kind of body-like, they're known as Cailleach or the Bodach. And these are really old stones, as old as some of the standing stones of the Hebrides. So it's speculated that these are memorial rocks from ancient times, that the ancient Gaeltacht, ancient Gaelic-speaking people were using these as memorial, these ritualistic sort of icons to mark like the first man and the first woman, which they are calling essentially great-grandmother or great-grandfather, which essentially Cailleach is. There's also, mostly used, and that's the interesting thing as well. Like if you're an old woman in Gaelic community, you're not just automatically referred to the Cailleach, a Cailleach or a Cailleach, because it seems to be like a certain role, like you have to be wise and you have to be an old age or something bizarre about you. because you would be called Ben Sharon or Ben Sheehan, which is old woman, and that's what you're referred to mostly in Gaelic is Ben Sheehan, old woman. But yeah, it seems to you have to have something freaky about you to not just old lady. You have to be something freaky about you to be called the Cailleach. So that goes on to how we can sort of work with her as a relationship to connect with our own ancestry, our own roots within the Gaelic landscape, the Gaelic culture, the language of your roots, whether you, like myself, live in Scotland, that has connections through my blood ties, but also I'm English, you know, I'm originally from England. I moved here for my connections, for my roots, from my dad's side. Or you're in America or somewhere across the ocean and you've done DNA, you know, that shows that you have ancestry, or even your surname having a clue to where you come from. You know, I think the people always ask me, how do I connect with Gaelic culture and or Scottish culture, like when I don't live there, I'm not part of the community? And I always say, like, well, on a sort of research level, just read everything you can, folk tales, folklore. But on a spiritual level, you want to go to the source, really, and speak to your great grandmother, the great great grandmother soul, and that is the Cailleach. Within Gaelic culture, she is the ancestress. She's the one that bore us. She created the land. So it's going to the source and working with her, you know, seeing what wisdom she can partake onto you. And we can do that through ritual. We can do that through icons, you know, magic, you know, ritualistic journeying, transfer. And so I'll go on to sort of rituals and customs within Gaelic culture, and also stuff in my own personal practice, what I do. So as you probably know, the main thing that's connected to is Lad na Cailleach. And although there's not much documented about it, except for F. Marion McNeill recorded that on this day, the 21st of March, is called Lad na Cailleach, and it's, you know, the day of the old women. And it's said that you know, she just remarks that it is a day that the Cailleach gives up her reign and her bad stormy weather, and throws her wand, her holly wand under the holly bush, and that is what she uses to smite all greenery and snow. And that's why there's a legend, the follow-up legend is the reason why grass does not grow under a holly bush is because that's where the Cailleach has thrown her wand, which blasts all greenery. So yes, and so there's not much known about it, but we know that from other information, so from old cycles, we know that this was sort of the old day of the new year. It's also a place where rents were paid. So you know, dowries were sort of made, weddings, unions, contracts were made in the old in ancient times, you know, up until like the medieval period in Gaelic society. We know as well in England it's called Ladies' Day, so we've got a connection there. And then a few days before, on the 18th, is Sheila's Day, you know, said to be the wife, just after like St. Patrick's Day, the wife of St. Patrick. But we also have the connection with, like, you know, there's speculated that Sheila's Day, because it was recorded by the Romans, Sheila's Day as well. So it's not just within you know, Irish folk legend and folk tales, but the Romans, when they're recording sort of special dates within Britain, one came up as Sheila's Day on the 18th. So this could have connections with Sheila na gig, you know, these figures that we see with a woman with her stretched out vulva, vagina. And again, we see here like this primitive, this primordial goddess, this ancestor, the creator of all. So we have a connection there, you know, just days before Cailleach is Sheila's Day. And anyone that's we plug, but anyone that hasn't know already, I am doing these wee boxes on Cailleach, and they are mystery boxes. And it will be things involved and rituals and items that you can work with the Cailleach on that day. And also, I've combined celebrations and workings with Sheila na gig as well around this time. But also, what if she's connected with the sort of the year as well? Like I said, mentioned about Taina Badach or Taina Cailleach. I have my own miniature one, so that I use. And, you know, I like to think like at Christmas, we, you know, Christians get Advent, you know, their nativity sets out of Jesus and whatnot. And, you know, within my own practice, I have sort of my own nativity of the Cailleach and the Badach. So I'll show you. Again, I only bring the stones out normally on Beltane, but on this occasion I'll make an exception. So it's just a simple wooden thing that I've made with some sphagnum moss and some kind of stone-like laminate here. And then this is the capstone, which I close up. And this is inspired by the capstone that's on Newgrange in Ireland. So, and then we got like stones like this. So this is my Cailleach. You can see the hole in there. This is my Badach. And these are my neons. Yeah. So, and I also have like adobe stone, which is it's not quite a hagstone, but it's the sea has eroded it, and I use this as a kind of wee offering to them. So I'm doing a wee dripple of whiskey or a milk or honey. And then I found this stone quite some time ago, and I loved it because it kind of reminds me of the, you know, the sort of pattern that was found on Newgrange. So yeah, I have that near it. And what I do is I simply, you know, at Samhain, I will sort of pop them back in like so with the Badach, Cailleach, and the neons, and then they are capped like so until Beltane, when they're brought out, and then this actually becomes a little place for them to sort of sit. And I just kind of use a bit of like glue tack and stuff to just hold them up because they're not really straight at the bottom. But these are the sort of stones that I found on a beach. I love this one. Like it's got like two eyes at the back and then a hole at the bottom here, and it's perfect sort of figure shape. So, you know, you can make this yourself. I got this ages ago from like a hobby craft store, and it was like just a bucket, like a wooden bucket, and I sawed it. I covered it with laminate to look like stone. I got some sphagnum moss out in my garden, and you just, you know, and a little kind of, it's actually a Pringles top here. So so you just spraying it or just a little bit of water every so often just to keep the sphagnum moss green and wet. And it's living, you know, it's bringing that life. So yeah, I think, you know, if the Christians can have their sort of nativity sets, then we can have our nativity sets as animists. So that's something I kind of introduced in my own practice, you know, is mirroring that tradition that's found in Persia of the Taina Badach or the Taina Cailleach. And it's something you could create yourself. I'm looking to sort of make them on my store and have them sold. And when I do that, the proceeds will be going to helping. Yes, so I forgot to say, so the land in which Taina Badak or Taina Cailleach is on is currently up for sale. We have tried, myself and others, a petition to Scottish Heritage and Scottish Environmental Scotland, and we got back saying that it's not a listed and they don't have no interest in listing it. Again, these you know, it's all well that these sort of heritage companies protect likes of castles and stone circles, but it seems that if it doesn't make them money, they're not willing to list something as an ancient site, regardless of the carbon dating with, you know, data is saying. So when I do make these sets, I plan on giving all the proceeds to a wee group, which I'll put up a link, that is petitioning for it to be protected site, because once this land gets sold, it literally is, you know, to the hands of the landowner, and that's sad. It's sad, really, that in parts of the Highlands this is still going on, where most of it is private land and by landowners selling off, and a lot of interest now in the Highlands with you know, holiday homes and glamping and stuff, and we don't know where that, you know, the you know, Taina Badak sits for that. So a lot of us are fighting really hard to sort of get it marked as a historical landmark, a monument. But yeah, and also, so sorry, I went a bit politics there, but, you know, I feel like, you know, when it comes to, you know, Britain's oldest shrine, I think it's worth sort of promoting and fighting for. So yes, going on to another seasonal thing. So you've got Lala Cailleach, you've got, you know, Beltane and Samhain, if you wish to make a nativity set like mine, and also, you know, on Lunasa, you know, Lammas or Lugnasad, you know, it is within Gaelic culture, the first farmer to reap, like to harvest their corn, would make a doll of the last sheaf, and then they throw it to the next farmer or give it to the next farmer, and it's so on and so forth. So, and then the last person that, you know, to bring in their harvest is the unfortunate or fortunate person to hold the doll, the straw effigy known as the Cailleach. And there's loads. If you go on to sort of you know, the Museum of Scotland website, or trying to think, oh yeah, Tobin and Dulkish has a lot of audio material talking about this tradition. If anyone needs any links, just give me a message, and I'll point you in the right way. But yeah, Toba and Dulkish was a project that created in the 60s by Hamish. Oh my God, see how I'm like with names. The School of Scottish Studies at the University of Edinburgh. So Toba and Dulkish is is audio recordings of people talking about stories, folklore, customs. So you can find more about that tradition on there and hear the actual from the people's mouths of how they used to do it. But yeah, you're fortunate because if you're able to keep the doll all year round without her being fallen, you know, damaged, you had to look after this straw effigy with your life and great respect. Otherwise, you know, misfortune will befall you, and you may have like a bad crop, is believed. But if you manage to do this through the whole year and she is intact, then the dried corn heads are then scattered in the field. They're the first to be sort of scattered in the field. And you said that you the following harvest will be the one that's most bountiful. So yeah, she's like the blessing and the curse sort of thing. So yeah, at Lunasa, like obviously now agricultural, agricultural practices and the agricultural business is very different now. It's all done by tractors and whatnot, and it's done on a massive commercial scale. And I believe, we're not all farmers here, so but you can, before the harvest time and you're near a cornfield, just do what I do and just sneakily grab a handful and just, pop it in your bag and just and you could make one yourself and keep it all year round. And then from the farm that you got it from, you can take it back and just before they, start to harrow the field, you can throw the seeds into them. So you're helping your community, your farmers, and hopefully they'll have a good crop. So you will see here as well, she's this massive connection with the land, with the Cailleach, and it seems with agriculture and life, and also within nature as well. There's legends of her being like the guardian of deer, of wild deer, and there's several sort of legends that sort of again sort of repeat themselves in a different kind of variations, where a hunter goes out to the woodlands, the big forest to hunt the wild stag, and this spirit appears of this old woman, the Cailleach, and he manages to break his bow, or he trips over and whatever, and or the stag runs after him. There's several variations, but she is seen as like the protector, the protector and guardian of wild deer. So in that respect, I use antler tines. So I use them as a form of divination. So if I want a question asked, or some advice, I will throw them down, and I will sort of observe how they fall. So if, for example, if they cross, then that's a sure, like a negative response. Or if they, the tines go away from each other, again, negative response. But if they sort of touch or they go freely with each other, it's a positive response. They may even turn into a shape, they may come to a triangle, and that could be, a sure sign of spirituality, of a deep awakening. They could go into a square, or they can cross each other. So if you're into sort of omen reading like I am, then these are a brilliant tool because she's connected with the deer. So you're getting yourself some deer antler tines from antlers, and throwing them down. Also, effigies. I make these on my store, the Cailleach dolls, and this is, so I've made now, I counted the other day, 50 in total of the Cailleachs. So there's 50 Cailleachs in the world now, all from going to Canada, Europe, America, but she is the originator of them all. She recently had a makeover because I've had her for you can see she's had a bit of repair all here as well, which I've still got to paint her. But I've had her for about 15 years. So she's the originator of all the other ones. So she had to have a makeover because her hair was coming out and there was a few holes in her dresses. The contents were leaking out, and oh, brilliant, you have one. Oh, I'm glad. Hope she's working well with you. So yeah, I had to give her a makeover recently. So she is 15 years old. But yeah, so I make them, but you don't need to if you don't want to have a doll or an effigy. You can just get stuff from the store as well. Like for example, you see these, like I see these at like charity shops all the time. I think in America call them thrift stores or something. But yeah, you can see stuff like this in charity shops, and you can use that. I think they're called I don't know what they're called actually. These sort of, there's a word for these sort of these old women statues, and I can't remember. But yes, like you can use that, or just a simple picture. You know, I love this one of her. I can't remember the artist neither, though, but I just love this one. So, so I have that near her. I have like other things as well. So I have like a little offering bowl. That's very, very like it looks very sort of typical of from Latin culture, Iron Age Celtic culture. So I like that, and some rowing beads, berries. But also like, so if anyone as well, so books. If anyone is looking into sort of her legends, I would recommend reading the Campbell series of, you know, the West Highland Tales. There's like, I think there's like 8 volumes. So there's a lot. And I've only got one. I got this recently from a charity shop. But they're all, you can view them online. So if you go to like sacredtext.com, I believe there's some volumes there. But he talks extensively, there's loads of folk tales he talks about that he gathered from the Highlands during the Victorian era, the 19th century, of the Cailleach. If you wanted something that's all sort of compiled together, I would recommend this one, The Visions of the Cailleach, by Sarita Estelle and David Rankin. There is another book as well. I used to have it, but I can't find it in my bookshelf. But there is another book by Pagan Portals, and it's just called, let's have a look. Pagan Portals, Cailleach, by Rachel Patterson. So there's that one. And then there's a brilliant book, and I can't remember. I think it's called like Cailleach, the Wise Woman. Tales of a Wise Woman Healer, I think. Aha, here we go. So this one's brilliant. I haven't got it myself because it's quite expensive, but I did borrow it from my uni library, and it's called The Book of the Cailleach, Stories of a Wild Woman Healer by Cailleach McCuddick. It's Irish name. So if you can't think, just put in The Book of the Cailleach, Stories of a Wise Woman Healer. That is brilliant. And some of her theories I absolutely adore. You know, theories that, like what I was saying about her being referred to within the community as a wise woman, someone who would do stuff that many of us here do today, you know, work charms, you know, help our community, do healing, know knowledge of herbs. And she has some brilliant theories. I haven't read it for some time. It is quite a hefty book. It's quite thick, and it's quite expensive to buy, but you know, always check out your local library. You might be able to borrow it out. So yeah, but these tales, you know, West Highland Tales by J.F. Campbell. Them volumes are brilliant, and it will be noted. I don't know if this one has any. Let's have a look. So he'll do, what's brilliant, because I am a supporter of the Gaelic medium, is that he has both the Gaelic and English translations of these folk tales, and I love that. Like, so many people, so many books I've seen there published about, you know, the Carmeli Cadelica, and they've just done like a whole combination of just the English translations, and I'm like, no. Like, I understand we probably, some of us don't know how to read a word of Gaelic, but having it published alongside its English translations supports the Gaelic medium in itself. So, but yes, so these are really good books, and definitely recommend the Book of the Cailleach, because she's brilliant. And she also, just trying to think, it's been such a long time since I read that book, and it took me a while to read it because I'm dyslexic. So if it's a big hefty book, I have to read it like 3 times because I always miss something. it's just my brain is like, I just want to, it's like I'm trying to read it, but then my mind's trying to rush it. So I have to read it over and over again. Dyslexia. But yes, so that will come to the end of the talk. I will allow some questions. Allow? That sounds shite. So now but yeah, like, so I will do sort of like 10 minutes question time. I believe there's some like questions asked during, so let me have a look and I'll see if I can answer them. I do apologize if I couldn't answer them during. It's just if I do, I get so distracted. Like I think I've got like a bit of ADHD or something. So if I'm not keep focused and I get distracted and I'm like, oh, where am I going? So I'll have a read for the comments. So personally, do you think Cailleach is one of many aspects, or do you think Irish Cailleach and the Scottish are the same? Well, I did videos on this on my YouTube channel. So if you go to Scottish Cunning Ways on my YouTube, I did 3 parts discussing the mythology and real in-depth sort of anthropology into the Cailleach. But I think she is many. And when she's rarely, like when they talk about the Cailleach, like when you say the, as in the old woman, it's rarely used as that. So it's mostly plural they're referring to in legends. So a Cailleach is the Cailleach. So I think to your question, it's really hard to say. I think in today's mindset of neo-paganism, it's so easier to like archetype everything and like put everything into one. But within Gaelic culture, it's not as so complex. So it really depends on the legend that you're looking into, and that's what I said. Like now, however, today I think she is maybe a facelit, a kind of unified one of them all, because I do believe that we also shape the gods or our ancestors, and we give power onto them. We lift them. And through our veneration, we give them more power. They change within our time. As we change, they change. So yeah, I do think she's unified. I do think she represents as one as aspects of them all. She's also many of all of them as well. I think Donald Mackenzie, as I couldn't find him. Yeah, Donald Mackenzie. Yeah.
And sorry, you didn't answer the part about is she Irish or Scottish? Is that the same, or is that?
Oh right, yeah. So in my eyes, again, depends on the regional stories, because she may be connected to a certain landscape. So then she may be an ancestress of that area. But generally the idea and the figurehead of what Gaelic culture sees the Cailleach in a spiritual sense, then yeah, like she is sort of seen as the same. So she's someone that's like, she's like this old lady ghost that has done something special within the area, or she's created something in the landscape. But yeah, again, it's really hard, isn't it, really, to not try and unify, like, because again, today, like we like to unify and put everything in the boxes into one. But so it's really hard not to think like as one being. But in the sense of like how she's referred to as the term Cailleach, then yeah, it's the same thing. Well, so the same deals with the Badach is could be referred to, like, I mean, Badach just simply means old man, and the root word, which is bot, is actually penis in Gaelic. So ach is like a sensualization of the name. So the root word is like big penis. Badach. But again, so we see this, I mean, as much as people like you would be doing fear Shen, old man, people rarely use Badach now, because they see as primitive, like it's a really old way of referring to someone as an old man. But yeah, if you could say, yeah, Manan Nachria, you know, he could be a bother, he's an old man. So you say a safe goddess to approach, not to dark. No, I don't think she's a dark goddess at all. I think just because a deity or spirit is connected to harsh parts of nature doesn't necessarily mean they're dark in the sense of evil. You know, like I discussed earlier, we need dormancy, we need storms, we need water, we need frost and snow for nature to reset itself and to hibernate and for new growth in the new year. So no, yeah. Oh, the 4 deers wandering in your back garden right now. There you go. Sure sign. Good omen. You're on the right track. Oh yeah, you got a doll. Yeah, Pagan Portents. I have that one. I haven't started with it. It's really good. Like again, like some of their theories might be a bit far-fetched. In both the books, Pagan Portals and Sarita and David's. But you know that it's good to look at all the different legends because they're all recorded in there. It's all, so it's, if you don't want to do the whole sieving, which I recommend you do, is go and find folk tales, because them 2 books don't cover all the folk tales associated with the Cailleach. Yeah, that's fine. I can on the email I'll put the list of books and the authors. See, here's another one, like so I think this is really, I don't think, if anyone remembers ages ago, The Witch of Forest something, or Sarah Lan Lawrence, if anyone knows about her. I think she's probably, oh, I used to love her writings. She's her site's not the way it used to be, but it used to be called The Witch of Forest something, but now it's called Banefolk. And she's gone in completely different approach now, but she used to write some beautiful material. But I believe she may have been responsible of sort of making that connection with her being related with the Fairy Queen, or the Queen of Elfane, particularly known as, you know, Nick, which I don't like to speak too many times of her name after working with Nick years ago. It was a very difficult relationship. Does the kind of worship as a spirit? Yeah, I mean, again, I think the Cailleach is a spirit. She's an ancestor, and she's a goddess. With someone with no Celtic ancestry, yeah, completely, yeah. So you don't have to have Celtic ancestry to work with the Cailleach. Like, in fact, you know, when you go to Gaelic communities, you know, they're quite more than happy that you recognize their customs and their beliefs, and they have no problem at all. Like I said, Gaelic cultures, well, I must stress, Gaelic cultures is not a closed practice. It's not an indigenous class as an indigenous culture, as much as they are a minority culture, and it's a minority language. It's not a closed practice. It's not an indigenous culture. So it's okay to sort of incorporate into your practice with obviously recognition, and, you know, the Gaelic medium, support the Gaelic medium. It's brilliant. Scotland's been doing a lot of effort with promoting Gaelic and the sort of uprise in Gaelic, and probably more so since Outlander. I haven't watched Outlander. I think I watched a few series. It's not my cup of tea. But I like the fact, I praise it for the fact that due to Outlander, there's been an emergence, like a big boom in people wanting to learn Gaelic or Gaelic or Gaeilge, which is great. Yay, good. Like I did it in I'm not a native Gaelic speaker. I found out through the census that my grandparents that were from Ireland, they could speak Gaeilge, Gaelic. But I didn't know until I saw the status what it says, languages, E and G. And she never spoke a word. And that's because there's such stigma back in their day about speaking Gaelic. You know, it was seen as, if you want to, you know, be successful in life and have a good job, then you have to abandon Gaelic and start speaking English and proper English. So it's probably because my grandparent, well, I never met my granddad, he died before I thingy, but I was brought up with my gran while my mum and dad worked full time to feed 5 of us in a 3-bedroom house. So our gran like sort of picked us up from school and looked after us until they both came back from work. So I picked up a lot of her mannerisms. I swore I wouldn't be like her, but as I've got older, I've become more like her. So I don't know. She was right after all. She would be like, we'll see. I guess she saw herself in me. Yeah, like I'm not a Gaelic native Gaelic speaker, but I learned it in college and again in uni, and I'm still learning it. Like I am not fluid in no way. I can speak very good conversational basis. I can read it. I'm not very good writing it. But it, as you know, learning it it's very, very complicated language. You know, with stuff with lenition and accents and you know how words change just by adding a H or you know is involved. The H is drives me mad. I forget about it. You know, but yeah, it's hard, but it's worth it. Especially and anyone looking to learn Gaelic or Gaelic or Gwega, I would start off trying to train your ear to the sounds. So listen to Gaelic music. Traditionally, like I would say start off with modern Gaelic music because they pronounce things a lot more clearer without an accent. So and that's another thing. So like we Cailleach, it might be Cailleach, Cailleach, like different parts of the Highlands and Hebrides have accents onto Gaelic. But yeah, I'd start off with modern music, modern Gaelic. There's some brilliant bands like Modran, Modran. My mind's going to. But yeah, and then start off traditional singers. But yeah, listen to music first and really get your ear trained. Have yourself a night or an evening where you have it full blast and you know you sort of it's there in the background just so you can hear the sounds. So when you come to learn it by medium, say like Duolingo or on GaelicDictionary.com, you'll be able to get it really easily. Check out Gruna Nafri. Gruna Nafri. I will check out that. Musician. Oh, right, I can. Yeah, I'll check them out. Yeah. So I'm going to give it probably 5 more minutes for any questions related to the talk or even Gaelic.
Somebody asked about what objects might be included in the Cailleach box.
Oh, well, that's the thing, you see. They are mystery boxes. So I've started to do mystery boxes for each Gaelic folk festival. But I will say there won't be like a doll like that, but there'll be something similar to the doll and a few little objects that you can use and utilize in working with a Cailleach, and also include, you know, objects to work with Sheila the gig. So I can't really say much because they are mystery boxes, but they will be, I'll tell you, there will be a former doll, right? But it will be more the busk form as the doll. Simple reason being because they take me so much time to make the actual dolls themselves. So there will be like, this is hush hush to all use, this is for use like only. So there will be included like a busk, which I have like, I haven't got one made, but I have one that I still, this is like from ages ago, like this is a mock one and it's not even painted. So they come like this and it has the name and they will be like shredded in blue and some gray hair. So it's more of a busk that stands as opposed to a doll. So I will say that that's the only thing I'll say about the box. Yes. Yeah, so I will plan on doing the boxes all year round. So if you miss it this year, then yeah, I will be doing it next year. Or if you're looking to having a Cailleach doll commissioned, I do commission work, or they are made on commission base only. And I say to people, because I have so many people interested in having them made, please allow like at least 2 weeks waiting time for a Cailleach doll. Because they do take a long time to make, like the process of making them from clay, letting it dry, letting it cure in it, painting it, and yeah, sewing the doll. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you said that. Like, I have, to be honest, I have so many impatient customers, and I have to remind them, like, I'm the one-man band here. Like, I'm purely the only creator of my store. I have so many people wanting it, like a doll. Like, there's so many orders. So I probably have to put it on like pause at some point, because it's there's so many I have to make at the moment. I'm sort of behind. Oh, I'm so glad you love yours. Like, again, I worked out there's about 50 in the world, and I'm quite proud, like, because having the originator of it and spreading her spirit, like spreading her spirit, but her spirit like spreading across the world, and getting people sort of inspired to working with the Cailleach and their ancestry and the Gaelic tradition and Scotland and their roots, or even if it's not their roots, you know, that is beautiful in Gaelic culture. But yeah, it's 15 minutes past, and as much as I love talking, I'm going to have to leave you all. And there's some brilliant questions. If you want to know anything else, I'm always on Instagram or Facebook. Give me a message. I'm always glad to answer any questions. I will include the titles and authors of that book when I send the link out for the recording. So, yeah, thank you all for sitting and listening to this workshop. I hope you all got something out of it, and may the Cailleach, or the Nachtin Cailleach Dut, may the blessings of Cailleach be upon you all. Slán Shiva.